I am live. It's good to be live. It's good to be live. It's good to have a live stream. A1C Spicy Lady. That's an interesting name. A1C. Isn't that like your blood sugar or some shit? I thought that's what I thought that was. I thought it was something very important like that. Welcome there, Sinwar and Art. I'm glad you're with me. It's good to see you. Well, does it worry anybody that Trump actually asked the head of the War Department for the nuclear codes? Does that freak anybody else out? Is it just me? I mean, am I just being a sissy here? God forbid, I don't want to be a sissy. He was just checking. Sir, I'm afraid we can't give you those. Oh, yeah, you don't even have them. I'll bet you don't even have them. Really? Oh, you do, huh? Well, let me see them. That's a good strategy. Yeah, I'm surprised the Russians didn't try that to get our nuclear codes. Oh, you don't even have codes. We're like, yeah, Russia, we sure do. Look, see, what do you think this one is? This one's Minuteman right here. Yeah, it's fucking 4D chess, I'll say. Oh, God almighty, when do I wake up and realize that this is just everything since 9/11 has just been a nightmare? Alex, I am doing outstanding. It's funny, I normally say outstanding, but there was a time when I was going through neurolinguistic programming. Yes, I believe in neurolinguistic programming. My father worked for the CIA, and he was part of MK Ultra. So yes, I do believe in neurolinguistic programming a lot. So I was going through this training with this guy who was not, okay, I'm not going to say he was not CIA. I'm just going to say that we didn't acknowledge whether or not he was, since we weren't at the time working for them. Us trainees were just simply there because we wanted to understand communications. It's up there in NorCal. So I'm going through this neurolinguistic programming, and the head cheese, the big boss, who, by the way, was in the private sector, among other things, and had doubled his income 5 years in a row. Now, if you start with, say, just a decent income, okay, let's say 40 grand a year. Well, if you double that to 80, that's great. If you double that again the next year to 160, that's really good. If in year 3 you get to 320, and in year 4 you hit 640, and in year 5 you make over $1 million, well, that's impressive as hell. And he had receipts. So, needless to say, I was very enthusiastic about his teachings, and he was, I'll admit, really good. One of the things he said to me was, you got to make a decision. You got to decide, how are you? And I said, well, I'm outstanding. And he said, I like that word. I said, what are you, Stan? And he said, you know what I am. I'm fantastic. I thought about it. I said, yeah, that's true. When anybody ever asks you how you're doing, you always say fantastic. He goes, always, or I'll hand you $100. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you didn't know that? He goes, oh, absolutely. He hands me a card that he gives to people. He hadn't handed me one, but he gives me this card. And on the back, it says, I go by Mr. Fantastic. If you ask me how I am and I say anything other than fantastic, tell me that I owe you $100. And I looked at the back of his card and I said, son of a bitch, you're serious. And he goes, absolutely. He goes, son, you got to make a decision. How are you? And I said, well, I'm outstanding. He goes, you are outstanding, aren't you? And I said, fuck yeah, I'm outstanding. And he goes, do what I do. Make sure that you say outstanding. Make sure that you know that you're outstanding. You believe you're outstanding, and you fucking say you're outstanding no matter what. And I said, all right, I'll take you up on that. Well, that was only a Monday morning. You know, we do the class. We sit through 10 hours of training. He makes it a fucking blast because he's constantly joking and tricking people and doing crazy, making people say shit that they would never say out loud. So we get done Monday, Tuesday, another great day. You know, my day was outstanding. Wednesday comes along. I wake up. I'm at, it's not exactly the Four Seasons, like, you know, the whatever Red Roof Inn or whatever, you know, one of those nice, clean, fairly basic places. It's not, you're not slumming it, but hey, you know. So I go downstairs because I want my breakfast. You get a free breakfast. Look, when you're 6'7", you would weigh 300 fucking pounds. You get your free breakfast. You don't skip your free breakfast. Why would you do that? Yeah, I know they're not that great. So what? I don't care. It's free and it's food. Count me in. So I go down there. I pile up plate, just overloaded with stuff, you know, to the point where the other patrons are probably sitting around laughing. Well, I know they were laughing. I mean, at least one little old lady was laughing when I turned around and she saw this huge pile of bacon and sausage and pancakes and eggs, and I'm making myself hungry. I just ate. I'm making myself hungry. So let's move on. So when I got to my table, I went back for the little milks, you know, and remember, there's milks. And then there's milks. The milks are about this fucking big. You got to have 12 of them, okay? But start with one. So I decide, since I can't carry enough of them in my hands, I'll down one first. So I take my 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, and I set them aside, and I grab one, make sure it's frosty, ice cold, open it up, and start drinking it. I'm, of course, guzzle the first one because it's only, 2 gulps? I get to about halfway through the second gulp when I realize this is chunky. Milk's not supposed to be chunky. So I can't believe it. When I got to my table, I went back for the little milks, you know. And remember, there's milks, and then there's milks. The milks are about this fucking big. You gotta have 12 of them, okay? But start with one. So I decided, since I can't carry enough of them in my hands, I'll down one. Does this clip explain the violation? No, not exactly. They just kicked me off for bullying and harassment. I don't think I understand what they're talking about. Was I bullying the size of the milk carton? TikTok. Okay, appeal. I was joking about how small the milk container was at my hotel. This is really strange. I wasn't bullying anyone. That's really strange. That's really crazy. They kicked me off. They kicked me off after 9 minutes for making fun of the size of milk containers at the Holiday Express or Red Roof Inn or whatever it was. Well, that's almost hard to imagine. My God, I've got a backup account. All right, well, let's just go on to my backup account. And let's see how many of my people find me over here. It should be plenty of them. They know I get kicked off all the time, and well, it's just one of those things. Yeah, it's just one of those things. All right. Yeah, I figured you guys would find me over here. You know, you're going to be shocked to hear this, but I just got booted off my main channel. Now, the reason I got kicked off was for bullying and harassment. Now, I know you're thinking, Big and Corn Fed, why you gotta be such a dick, man? Why you gotta bully? Why you gotta harass? I was making fun of the size of the milk at the morning free breakfasts at places like Red Roof Inn or Holiday Inn Express, that kind of thing. And I was saying that they're tiny, which is why you have to drink a bunch of them. And they kicked me off for bullying and harassment. Now, do I really think that they kicked me off for specifically saying that the milk is too small at the free breakfast at Holiday Inn Express? Yeah, because they actually gave me a clip of me saying that and saying, this is why we kicked your ass off our platform. We kicked you off for bullying this milk. Now, well, here's the thing. They're too evil to hope. He's on YouTube, which you guys should be too. It's Big and Corn Fed on YouTube, and I never get kicked off of YouTube. So YouTube, it's actually not owned by the Chinese anymore. The entire thing is now owned by what's called the Texas Project, which is Larry Ellison, the guy who started Oracle. He's their chief information officer, not their CEO. He's their CIO. And he's also the largest donator to the IDF in the world. He donated $100 million last year. Extreme Zionist. So Yeah. So I can't believe that I got kicked off for bullying a container of milk. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a guy who thinks that everybody should have rights. Now, I think giving a milk carton rights, so basically, are you supporting him? Do I look like I love the devil? No, he's Satan. He's not Satan. Peter Thiel's Satan. He is just like a close runner up. And now he owns Tic Tac. And because of that, I got kicked off after 9 minutes on my main channel. 9 minutes. Not only did I make it 9 minutes, the sad part is, I had 560 views. Things were starting to get rolling. Had 150, 200 people, whatever, on watching at that point. And boy, they just canned me, man. And I mean, I don't blame them. Look, you should take milk cartons seriously. Bullying milk cartons is not a joke. Clearly, I mean, I just got kicked off of my main channel for doing it. Now, the thing is, if I go back in right now, and I'm going to, let's go to profile. Let's go to live. It says you can go live and join a live as a guest starting April 24th. Yeah, that's another 3-day suspension. Now, what will happen is this will probably disappear in about 30, 40 minutes. It'll be up there just long enough for everybody who is watching to go, well, I guess that's it. And they'll go do something else. And I won't be able to do my live stream with my audience, with my people. But that's okay, because I'm moving over slowly but surely, way too slowly, by the way, over to YouTube. And YouTube is going to make it very, very interesting. On the AI summary here, discussing being kicked off a platform for bullying comments. Share your thoughts. Yes, I mean, that's the good news, is that people are starting to figure out that, hey, look, this guy gets kicked off every time he goes live. Because, look, I think about it. Don't get me wrong. I think about it. I'm at the store, I'm pushing my cart, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm not going to talk about politics anymore. It's not my job. It's not my job. My job, I'm an economist. I deal in gold and silver. Stay in your lane. Stick to what's in your wheelhouse. The problem is that I also have a didactic memory. So I remember everything that all of these liars and cheats and thieves have promised me. I remember it. And it's sad because I if I didn't remember it, it would be a lot easier. My life would be a lot easier. I wouldn't know what really happened between Ukraine and Russia. I wouldn't care about Charlie Kirk. I'd just be sad that, that crazy furry loving weirdo killed him. And I wouldn't look beyond the newspapers. I mean, on the other hand, there's an old saying that ignorance is bliss. And to a certain extent, that's true. However, ignorance is also abject poverty and slavery. It really is. If you don't know what the truth is, when somebody tells you that this is just normal, this is what you've got to do, well, that's it. That's, hey, look, how do we know there is such a thing as a constitution? You ever seen it with your own eyes? Were you there when they signed it? So how do you know what it says? That's the scary part. is that when they get good enough that they can start to really, really, really change things, and they can say things that like I'll give you an example. Right now, there's a country who's infiltrated our country. They're trying to divide us up and destroy us. Now, I know you think, well, wait a minute, who would that be? You know, is it Russia? No. No, Russia has no reason to do that. They don't benefit because they have the same enemy. So is it China? No, believe it or not, we have the same common enemy as China. My thoughts on Candace Owens. If she weren't married, I'd marry her. I think she's a hoot. She's also very sharp. Um, she'd probably she'd probably off me in my sleep after about 3 weeks though, because she's really hard headed, and so am I. And her husband seems like he's just a really easygoing, likable dude. He is not an alpha male. He's a beta male who's just like, yeah, whatever, let's get it done, whatever it takes. And those guys are always the most fun to hang around with. The alpha males are. I'm a pain in the ass. We're all a pain in the ass. Too much testosterone, too much protein, and God forbid you get an IQ that's over 100 stuck to that. You're really screwed. So, um, but Candace Owens is, she loves to stir the pot and have fun normally, but they killed a friend of hers. That's really what changed. I watched the change. I saw the fun, the lighthearted fun of, hey, Macron's wife is actually his husband, and woo, started grooming him when he was 14. Well, now that's some shit right there. I mean, look, I've seen women who were taking advantage of students. You find out that one of their students is a senior in high school, and you look at him and you're like, that's a minor. And you look at her and you're like, wow, why she's hot. That's a beautiful woman. What the hell's going on here? Macron started grooming, or whatever his name was initially, started grooming Emmanuel Macron when he was 14. And this is a man grooming a boy. For some reason, and maybe that's just my stupid conservative mind, and it's like, hey, there's no difference. There's no difference. It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I only had a couple of really hot teachers when I was in high school, and I would have done anything to be able to fool around with them. It just didn't work out that way. I thought about them. But the reality is that if my science teacher, Mr. White, had tried to groom me, I mean, it's funny because I think about Mr. White. It's like, no, that's impossible. But Emmanuel Macron's wife is like, what, 30 years older? Isn't it something like that? It's some wild number. Or maybe he was 40 when he started grooming Macron. I'm not exactly sure, but here's my point. Candace Owens was having fun. She was having a good old time stirring the pot, getting letters and threats from the French government, and having a good time with it. Yeah, she's smart. Yes, she's loud and she's funny, and she can be quite obnoxious if you're trying to hide a secret like that. But it was all in good humor. And then Charlie Kirk happened, and the fun part was gone. And now she's pissed. When she covers anything other than Charlie Kirk, you can see she lightens up. She doesn't take it less seriously. I just think that there's less passion and less anger in her investigations. They're still quite thorough, but you know, look, the idea that I don't know. I saw what she did one the other day that had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. Well, that's because Led Zeppelin's amazing. And by the way, this was their tour shirt. And no, I never saw them in concert because they broke up when I was a kid. They were making music, I think, before I was born. But let's see if TikTok's taking me off the thingy yet. I know they will. Well, they haven't done it yet. That would be really strange if I actually did get a 3-day suspension for making fun of a carton of milk. That would prove my point. That would really prove my point that this country is no longer ours. We are in grave danger. No, actually, this time, John, this was me talking about drinking a little carton, free carton of milk at the breakfast buffet, the free breakfast buffet at it was like a Holiday Inn Express or something, and it was just a fun little story about why I'm outstanding. That I didn't get to finish because apparently, if you make fun of the size of someone's milk carton, it's worse than making fun of the size of their junk. So I got kicked off for bullying and harassment. Hard to imagine, but there it is. Bullying and harassment. Shit. Anyway, all right. So let's get down to it, guys, because let me pull up some stuff. I don't want to be on here all night because I got book stuff that I got to do. Thank you if you bought my book. Thank you. If you didn't buy my book, buy my book. Let's go to here, and then we'll go to here. All right. So, wow, this is crazy. South Korea curbs syringe shorting as Iran war cripples supply. Well, now, that's not something I thought I'd be reading. Trump blinks again and unilaterally extends Iran ceasefire after Pakistan talks failed to launch. That was today, in case you're wondering. And in case you're thinking that, hey man, this is just 5D chess. No, it's not. It's not 5D chess. This is the President of the United States losing his grip. This is a guy who is flailing desperately. When you ask the commander of the armed forces, the chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, when you ask him for the nuclear codes and he says no and walks out of the meeting, which there are pictures of, he does not look like a happy camper. You've lost your moral high ground. Like there's something's going on that, in my opinion, I mean, I could tell you what I think is going on because I can tell you what makes the most sense. What makes the most sense is that Trump keeps throwing out these artificial things, these things that are sort of a wish list of things that could, should have, would have happened. And the Iranians know, they know that it is kill or be killed at this point. There's nothing in between. This we just crossed the line into absolute existential threat to the end of their civilization. We said that. The man that's the highest appointed official in our civilization vowed to end their civilization publicly, not privately. Now, for a lot of people, they've never taken responsibility for anything in their lives, and their lives are mostly failure at this point. And those people say things like, oh, he doesn't mean it. People who say that are giving themselves away, because if you tell me that as a man, you think it's okay to say things that are absolutely patently lies, and it's okay because you didn't really mean it, that doesn't compute. That doesn't compute. Words have consequences. Words matter, especially the higher up you go. Now, do men hold themselves accountable for what they say? Not always, but we hold each other accountable. Somebody might say, I'll bet you $100 you can't do that. If you do it, and they say, I was just kidding, one of two things is about to happen. Either you're about to get your ass whooped, or B, that was the last time anyone will take you seriously, and you probably just lost a bunch of friends. Everyone who saw what you did. Because the reality is that, by the way, that wasn't an actual duck. No ducks were harmed in the making of my ringtone. I just know that I won't ignore a duck. But that's also why I've got to silence my phone. That's funny. So, yeah, we hold each other accountable. You have to. Now, you can look at somebody like, what's his name? Oh, he's a Navy SEAL, Linko, Zinko, Minko, whatever the fuck, Winky, whatever. Anyway, his philosophy, Jocko Willink, his philosophy is extreme accountability. Extreme accountability. Something went wrong. People say to you, well, yeah, but there's nothing you could do. That wasn't even your team. That was something that you had no control over. Okay. But what could I have done? They could have prevented that. Well, you don't have to worry about it. It's not your fault. No. I'm not trying to get out of taking responsibility for what happened. I'm trying to find out if I could have been responsible for making it not happen. It's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different mindset. Yeah, thank you. Like and share this. Because remember, the key to this is that amateurs, they practice until they finally get it right. Professionals practice until they can't possibly get it wrong. It's a very, very different mindset. So to have somebody at the top slinging words around like they mean nothing, and then saying, come to the negotiating table, but what exactly do you hope to accomplish? Well, I want people to take what we say seriously as you know as though it were the gospel. Oh, well, I'm glad we put it that way because Takia says that Muslims are allowed to lie for the benefit of Islam. It's actually a virtue to lie to benefit Allah. Jews do not consider it a lie if they're talking to someone who is not Jewish. If they're talking to a Gentile, Goyim, someone who is not even actually, according to their law, human, you can't lie to a goat. Period. That is what I've learned by reading the Talmud. Not misinformation, not making it up, just telling you. So here we are in this very unique position that we've got the Shia in Iran who are saying we're willing to negotiate. So we send over Stephen Witkoff, he's Jewish, and Jared Kushner, who is Orthodox Jewish. Now, we sent them over to negotiate in Paris months ago, and when everybody left, everybody said basically the same thing. That Kushner and Witkoff were there to say no. They weren't there to listen. They weren't there to negotiate. They were just there to say no to whatever idea came up, because they were there to make sure that they cleared the way for Israel to have their war. Because this is all about Israel getting their war. Now, I'm sure a lot of you saw this over this weekend, the IDF soldier tearing down the Jesus Christ statue and hammering it with a sledgehammer and bashing it to pieces. But what you don't understand is that's not unusual. The only thing that's unusual about it is that it got filmed and somehow went viral before all the bots could stop it, and made Netanyahu come out and say that it's an aberration. It's not an aberration. It's not an aberration. Jews kill Christians all the time. 70% of that part of Lebanon is Christian. Okay, so wait. But they're clearing out that part of Lebanon. They're just destroying everything. Yeah. But there are Christian settlements also. Yep. Being destroyed? Hell yes. By the IDF. Well, wait a minute. Before the IDF rolled in, wasn't Hezbollah in charge? Isn't that the local government? Yeah. This doesn't make sense, guys. Hezbollah allowed Christian communities to flourish in southern Lebanon with them? Yeah. No. That can't make sense. See, Hezbollah, they're all horrible, anti-Christian, murderous nutcases, right? No. Gone. If you're Christian, well, you're still not human, so what's the difference between you and a Muslim and a pig? Nothing. Now, I know you're thinking, whoa, wait a minute, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That can't be right. I know Jews. I've got friends that are Jews. Yeah, not all Jews think like that. The ones in Israel that are in charge do. See, that's the thing. A lot of people think that it's the Greater Israel Project, and that is true in the short term. But if you ask any conservative Orthodox Jew, What is God's actual plan here? They'll tell you subjugation. You will be dominated by us, and you will appreciate it. Kind of like remember when they said you'll own nothing and you'll be happy? Who do you think said that exactly? The Pope? Nope. Some evangelist Christian leader somewhere? Nope. That was the World Economic Forum. And who runs that? Schwab. Now, Schwab, that sounds kind of German, doesn't it? Yes, it is German, among other things. And George Soros and Lucifer. Yeah, you guys are right on. All of them, they share time. So it's very crazy. It's very crazy. Let's see here. Halliburton sees first signs of life in America's oil patch. Premium equipment is already tightening in price. When they said that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, I want to say that was about 4 or 5 years ago. Either 4 or 5. So Halliburton's already saying, look, guys, our oil field equipment's going to get real expensive. It's going to get real expensive to drill here. Really? No shit. Well, what's that going to do to oil prices? Really? Do I need to say what's about to happen to oil prices, kids? Come on. Let's take a look. Oof. Dow Jones got kicked in the testes. Oh, look at that. Silver and gold are down slightly. That'll happen for a little while. We're still at $90 a barrel, basically, for oil. That's for WTI, West Texas. We'll see what happens. But at this point, again, with 170 oil tankers coming to the United States right now to drink our milkshake. While working for the Special Forces COC in 83, Halliburton Bechtel spoke of bombing Baghdad in 83. Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. That does not surprise me. Because you have to remember that this is not something that happened overnight. Israel's been there since 1948. And since 1948, they have been working hard at this. Hard. San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Oh, okay. That's different than Special Forces. FBI officially investigating report of deaths and disappearances of U.S. scientists. Well, that makes me sleep a lot better at night knowing that the Phoebes are on it. The Federal Bureau of Intestinal whatever. I mean, come on. I have never seen a law enforcement agency that is worse at investigating crimes than the FBI. I mean, seriously, guys? January 6th pipe bomber, the girl who was working for the Capitol Police, who now works for the CIA. Oh, you think I made that shit up? No. She literally worked for the Capitol Police. You could totally see the way she walks. She walks very differently than most people do. She played soccer for her entire life before she became a cop after she got her tibia broken. And you can see very, very clearly that she does not walk like the average American. She crosses over her feet completely opposite of the way we walk normally. Instead of putting your feet apart and turning one way, she crosses over her feet and turns. That most people would fall flat on their ass if they tried that. That's something that you only normally do when you're wearing cleats and you're running. And you cross over your feet like that. And that is to confuse the people who are looking at your feet, trying to figure out which way you're going to kick the ball. There is no question. The forensics, the computers have her at 98% of a match, and the forensic guys that looked at her gait, they have her at 98% as well. 98% match. And a week after her name got brought up, boom, an autistic black man. Yeah, you can't make this shit up. This poor fucking guy goes every day, got his headset on, listens to really loud music in his headset. He walks to the store, gives them the money, gets the same snacks every day, gets the same candy bars and a pop, goes home. Every day. Same thing. Never says a word to anybody. Apparently, they decided that he fits the profile. Not the right size. His walk is completely obvious that he has autism because of the sort of stilted walk that he has. Doesn't fit the profile at all. Everyone who's talked to him for more than 5 minutes that is a professional said, this ain't your guy. But the FBI says it's the guy. Yeah, he walked by the bench one day and they said, did you see that? He looked at that bench. That's where the pipe bomb was 18 months ago. Always returns to the scene of the crime. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I used pop just because of that. Because we just call it soda. When I say we West Coasters, we left-handers. Yeah, I mean we're the left side. We put the bi in bi-coastal and polar too, mostly. There's a lot of that going around, isn't it? Isn't that funny? Everybody who's a pissy little sissy is now bipolar. Oh, I thought you were just fucking rude. No. I'm bipolar. I can't help it when you upset me and I start screaming at you because I said over easy. These are over medium. Oh, the world today. It just goes to show violence is the answer. Whistleblower says CIA hid 2020 election threats to help Biden. It does make you wonder because the CIA they don't work for the government. They work for corporations. They are big corporations. That's what they are. They started off as very wealthy Wall Street attorneys back in World War II, the OSS, and they just kept coming. Wow. Thailand vies to become the global LGBTQ4GF150 capital. I gotta know, right? We gotta know. What the fuck does all that mean, right? We gotta look. I mean, I have to look. I can't look away. It's like a traffic accident. Source. See, that's what happens when I talk about too many things. Are you talking about the left side of the country being bipolar? Sony somewhere in California. Not really. Oh, Biden. Oh, what was that? Who was that? Where did it go? Oh, wait, I'm on page 2. Yeah, probably. Let's go back to page 1. Oh, speaking of page 1, buy my book. Wow. U.S. Treasury sanctions 14 targets for helping Iran obtain weapons. Yeah, because clearly China and Russia aren't going to help. Okay, where'd it go? Oh, yeah, it's down here. Oh, there it is. Whistleblower says, okay, a newly declassified intelligence memo paired with fresh whistleblower allegations points in a less convenient direction than the mainstream media is suggesting. Let's see. On January 15th, 2020, the National Intelligence Council, the NIC, produced an assessment warning that foreign adversaries could compromise U.S. election infrastructure in the coming presidential election, which has now been declassified. The memo specifically called out Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and other non-state actors. Analysts did not claim that they had evidence of a specific plot. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, that's a yawner. And so I guess we're talking about the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA. It just keeps getting better, doesn't it, folks? It just keeps getting better. Like, just when you think that, well, there can't be that many more intelligence agencies, there's only 19, right? Oh my God, no way. Oh. California school excludes white kids from segregated social justice field trip. Well, luckily, hi there. Hi, Mary. Luckily, the trip only cost the district $42,845. I'm gonna read that headline again because I know that you're thinking, wait, he didn't say what I think he just said. California school excludes white kids from segregated social justice field trip. In a stunning display of racial exclusion dressed up as equity, a California school district barred white students from a taxpayer-funded field trip centered on social justice. Albany Unified School District organized the overnight trip to Virginia exclusively for young men and women of color from Albany High School. Where is Albany High School? Let's see. This unique mentoring program encourages Albany High School young men and women of color to develop social, personal, and academic success skills. Students gather in a safe, supportive, and non-cracker empowering environment to voice their needs, their special needs, and challenges, like, my skin's kind of ashy. What could I do? I made some of that up. You can probably tell what part I made up, but the actual field trip took place, and it did cost $42,845, and it was California school kids, but not white kids, because fuck white people. They're the problem. They've always been the problem. Yes, they didn't actually call us crackers because nobody cares. That's the thing, is that if somebody who's black yells at me from across the street, "Hey, cracker," I go, "Yeah, what do you need?" I already got zapped for bullying and harassment again. I guess we're the minority when you consider the entire population of the world. Yep, that's true. Not in this country, of course, but if you ask the average child, somebody under 18, how many people in the United States are gay? Do you know what the answer is? They think that about 30% of the people in the United States are gay. The actual number is less than 3%. How many people in the United States of America are transgender? Oh, that's even better. Less than 1.5%. And yet, they're in every TV commercial, every TV show, everywhere. 12% of the country is black, and about 80% of our shows are black people. What? Like, wait, but what would happen if you did something crazy? Like, I'll give you an example. Harry Potter. You know what my son said to me when he finally watched Harry Potter for the first time? We got to the end, and there was a black girl in there who was she was one of the best students. She was the announcer for the Quidditch game, and she was obviously a close friend of I think Hermione's or Harry Potter's. She was hugging them at the end when they were getting on the train and whatnot. And he goes, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see a lot of black people." And I said, "Well, I guess, if you think about it, the sort of fantasy old European world that they kind of came from, or that the show projects, there's not a lot of black people in Northern Europe. I mean, there are now, but there weren't." And he said, "Wow, that's weird. But yeah, I noticed that." And I thought, yeah, that's true. They did make something called Gladiator with a black emperor of Rome. They did make a movie called The Woman King, where they picked the worst tribe in Africa. The tribe that everyone else in Africa agrees captured more slaves than any other tribe, tortured and murdered more of the tribes around them than any other tribe, sold more of their countrymen into slavery to the Jews than anyone else in the country. And when they finally attacked the Belgians, I believe it was, uh, the fight was over within an hour or two. Because again, you can throw a spear and it's a very dangerous weapon, unless, of course, there's somebody 250 yards away with a rifle. So, no, the Zulu were a very different thing. That was actually an ass whooping. That the I think that the arrogance of the English got them into. There was kind of a I don't know. I'm not the movie Zulu, if I'm not mistaken, is actually based on a true story about sort of a forward base of the British Empire and how they really didn't plan on being attacked. No, this was the movie The Woman King with I forget her name. She's a good actress, really good actress, but my God, there's only so much you can do. By the way, that movie about this heroic, almost superhero woman, it was written by two white women who didn't know anything about the history of that tribe. They knew nothing about the history of Africa. And when they tried to hire a young woman to be in the movie, who's very recognizable, I forget her name, but she's very recognizable, very beautiful young African girl. She looked at the screenplay and said, "Do you know who this tribe is? Do you know what their reputation is?" And they said, "No." And she said, I can't be in this movie. I can't be in this movie. I'm African. I can't betray Africa by being in this movie. I won't do it." And she literally said no to millions of dollars because she realized what absolute horse shit that movie is. But again, we're having an agenda rammed down our throat, folks. And that agenda is very, very sharply focused. Lincoln said something that I think a lot of people have forgotten. A house divided cannot stand. Oh hell, I don't even know. Once I look when I saw the title and I saw what's her name Davis at the helm, I thought, man, this better be good. So I initially started by looking up the premise of the movie, looking up the reviews, which were apparently, like all the woke people loved it because they didn't know what they were saying. And then I started digging into it, and the more I dug, the more I realized, like, oh my God, this is that unfiltered Hollywood puke that comes up, this regurgitated, nauseating sort of better than thou. I'm going to teach you a moral lesson and make you pay $65 for it. That's destroyed Hollywood. I mean, they've lost 20% of their workforce in 1 year. 20% of the workforce. I'm from Hollywood. Hell, part of my family grew up being key grips and set builders, and they made a fucking fortune, $300,000-$400,000 a year as a construction worker. Yeah, it's one of the best kept secrets in the world, man. You go to work as a key grip, you work your ass off, sometimes 20, 24, 26 hours, nonstop. You're on that set. It's hot as shit. You bring baby powder because literally by the time halfway through that day, if you don't dump some baby powder down the front of your pants, it's just going to be ugly in there. You just don't want to do that. Movie title: The Woman King. Yeah, so I mean, there's a ton of money in it, but the problem is Hollywood's dying. Hollywood is absolutely dying. I just looked online. I was going to take my kid to a movie because I mean, I grew up going to movies. You get the popcorn, you get a big Coke. You blow off your diet for a little while. You go have some fun. You sit in a nice cold theater when it's hot outside, and it's just a nice little break. It's huge screen. And there's some movies that just deserve to be seen on a big screen. Project Hail Mary. Oh, absolutely fantastic movie. Absolutely fantastic movie. Loved it. My kid loved it. Formula One. Oh, F1 was so much fun. Top Gun Maverick. Just a good old fashioned movie. Good guys win. It's like those types of movies are so rare, though. I just named the three movies that I've enjoyed over the course of the last 4 years, 3 years. What the fuck is that? Like, what else is there? What movies have come out that you just go, whoa, you got to see that on the big screen? I don't know. It's a Wonderful Life, the 80th anniversary edition. I don't know. I mean, The Sound of Music, 50th anniversary digital redo. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I saw it the first time when I was a grown up. It was like the 25th anniversary edition, and it was in a fucking monstrous theater in Los Angeles. Absolutely, like 1,000 seat at least. Huge theater. And I remember sitting there watching The Sound of Music and thinking to myself, damn, I didn't realize Julie Andrews was so hot. I would marry that. And it was just fun. It was just a fun movie. And when it was over, it was like, oh, damn, I wish it was a little longer. They don't make movies like that anymore. Although I got to tell you, Project Hail Mary was one of those that it doesn't come along very often, but it's got all the right ingredients. It's got all the right ingredients. Everything. So if you haven't seen it, I know movies are insanely expensive now. They really are. It's like, 25 bucks a piece. You go there, you spend 50 bucks to get in. And then, it's 30 bucks for popcorn and drinks. So you're going to spend 100 bucks to go to the movies, which if you told me that 20 years ago, I would have just said straight up, you're full of shit. You can't eat that much. You can't eat that much. 10 bucks a piece to get in, that's 20 bucks. How the fuck do you eat $80 worth of food? You can't. Like, you can get a hot dog at the movies, but how much is a hot dog? $5-6? Yeah, they're outrageously expensive compared to the 99-cent dog at 7-Eleven, but they're only $5. Not now. Yeah, it used to be $100 if you wanted to go to see a symphony in the park and you wanted to wear a tux and, really treat your girl to something special and dress up and, do that whole thing, have a little champagne. Nope, now it's just a movie. And here's the best part. Wages have not increased over the last quarter of a century. And when I say they haven't increased, they've gone up. They've gone up 11% over 26 years. They've gone up 11% over 26 years. Now, is that the exact number? No, I rounded. But I can tell you this from memory. In 2000, the average weekly wage earner was $324. And in 2025, the average weekly wage earner or weekly salary or wage earner was $378. So you guys do the math on that. So over 26 years, it went from 324 to 378. So what is that? 24 to 74 would be 50. So 54 $54. It's gone up $54 per week over 26 years. By the way, in case you're about to type something like, oh, dude, that's bullshit. That can't be right. I understand. I understand how you feel. I got that from Fred. That is the Federal Reserve. It's the Federal Reserve of St. Louis. They're the ones, you go to Federal Reserve of St. Louis and you start going through all of they keep all the charts, they keep all of the files, they keep everything there. That's like the library for the Federal Reserve Bank. And the best part is they are totally honest. It's amazing because the first time I went there, I'm going through chart after chart after chart, and I'm starting to learn, like, be a wordsmith. Be careful. If you word something incorrectly, you might be asking for the right thing in the wrong way, and you'll never find it. But if you ask for the right thing in the correct way that they word it, comes right up. So basically it was, I worded it something like, weekly wage or salary increase 2020 to 2025. And boom, chart came right up. I was like, shit, that was easy. I look, oh, okay, 324. And then it goes up, and you're like, okay, up. Well, it's good. So yeah, it goes up. It looked just like the chart for everything else. Home price, 189, whoop, 420. Price of the average consumer vehicle, 22,000, whoop, 50. Okay, everything's going up. College education, everything goes up. And then you see the wage go up, and you're like, okay, it's going up. And then you look over at the side, and you go, wait a minute, holy shit. It's only going up because we're looking at it from the AAB, let's call it the C axis. When you look at the C axis, it starts at like $300 and it goes to $400. So yeah, of course it goes way up. But then when you realize, like, wait a minute, this is only like a 10, 12% increase. Holy shit, everything else is skyrocketing. Everything else is going up by 2, 3, 400%. Everything. Except our wages. What is going on here? How does that work? Why did our wages stop going up? Well, John, that's why I do hold silver. That's why I'm in the silver business. Because if you have any hope of making it, you have to live beneath your means. You cannot do what our society tells you. You can't live like there's no tomorrow, like live for today, buy more stuff, put it on the credit card. If you're willing to tighten up your belt, and of course, if you're 60, this is kind of a moot point. Not really. You could still save up, but if you're 35 or 40, this is how you retire. You do what Elon Musk did. Well, what did Elon Musk do? Well, when he was broke, living in his office with no money, before PayPal, before all that shit, he challenged himself to live on $1 a day for food. Can I live on $1 a day? Now, keep in mind, this was back in the early 90s. So $1 went a lot farther than it does now. But he would buy an onion and an apple and a couple of ramens. Because remember, back then, ramen was 10 cents. And I got some right there, but it's not 10 cents anymore. It's actually not that bad. It's more like 50, 60 cents, something like that. So, has it gone up by 500%? Yes, but it was so fucking cheap to begin with. It's not that big a deal. My point is that, he allowed himself to buy an onion and then he would buy, a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and basically what he did was over the course of a month, he lived on $30, and he said actually he ate pretty well. He would mix in, some cabbage or whatever, some vegetables with his ramen. But he ate a lot of ramen and ate a lot of veggies, and he was okay. He lived in his office, which I've done. He showered at his gym every day, which I have done. And he started companies, which I do. And he invested in equities, which I do. Now, if you don't do all those things, don't expect to get the same result. You cannot get the same result any other way. Period. You want to be the fourth richest man in the world like Larry Ellison? What did he do? Well, let's see. He started companies and invested in equities. Oh. Well, what about Sergey Brin? Google. Let's see. He started companies and invested in equities. Steve Jobs, same thing. Okay, so do you see a pattern here? Because the pattern is very clear. If you go to work every day, you will never be free. Now, are there exceptions? Of course, there's exceptions to everything. So you work an oil rig in the North Atlantic. You go to work. You work for 20 days. You take a month off. You get paid $300,000 a year. You work on a major cargo vessel, and you're one of the linemen. Linemen tie these ships off. Linemen get cut in half when one of those pieces of rope breaks. Linemen, it's a very dangerous job. You work on a trawler in the North Pacific in the wintertime. You have to go and sledgehammer all the ice off of everything on the railings so that the boat doesn't capsize in the middle of the night. Yeah, you make 20 or 30 grand a month. So there are exceptions, but there ain't no free lunch. 62 just got your first Social Security check last month. Oh, dude, live beneath your means, man. It's like live like you're homeless if you can, really. I know that sucks because you're like, fuck that, man. I worked my ass off until I was 60 something years old. I'm gonna enjoy my life. Trust me on this one. Just please trust me on this one. The United States of America just put the entire world into the worst economic position that modern civilization has ever been in. We have never, ever been in this bad an economic situation. The depression of the 20s was nothing. It was nothing. How many people died during the Depression? A few thousand, maybe 10, maybe tens of thousands. Was it hundreds of thousands? No way. Was it millions? No fucking way. Not a chance. Will it be this time? Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Millions will die because of what just happened. People think I'm crazy for saying that. Until, of course, I go through the numbers. And then they go, man, I really wish you hadn't told me that. If I don't tell you, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you. It just means you're not going to be prepared for it. If I tell you, does that mean that the next 6 months between now and when people start to starve to death is going to be a little less fun? Yeah, maybe. maybe that worrying that you're going to have to start doing right now if you want to survive, maybe that's going to make your life a little less fun. Of course, your alternative is to just ignore what I'm saying and then be unalived by the entire thing. I don't have that option. See, I have two things going for me that make it impossible for that to happen to me. Number one, I love me a lot. I can't think of a day that I don't want to be me, that I'd rather be somebody else. I'm crushing on myself. I have been for, a long time. And that's good. We should all love ourselves. How can you love anybody else if you don't love yourself? I love other people too. Even though they're a pain in the ass sometimes, love them. And then, of course, the other thing I got going for me is I have children. And there's absolutely no fucking way that I would ever allow anything to happen to them. What just happened? The Straits of Hormuz are closed again now. The Iranian government just drove us away from the Straits of Hormuz with drone attacks. The United States Navy is running away. It's over. The bluster is over. The bullshit bravado, we kicked their ass, this was so easy. Stop already. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. What happened is Trump surrounded himself for the second time in 2 terms with completely awful, horrible fucking people, horrible human beings. Now, why does he pick horrible human beings that seem to always lead him astray and get him to make terrible decisions? At some point, and my point was today, at some point, you have to say the reason that somebody is completely surrounded by sycophant, criminal, disgusting, psychopathic lowlifes is because he's one of them. That's the only reason I can come up with. I can't come up with a reason for Scott Bessent to be running Treasury. For God's sake, he's under investigation by the Treasury for corruption and fraud. And now he's running the organization that's in charge of investigating him? Seriously? We're supposed to be these conservative free market guys who are draining the swamp. Well, we can all agree that George Soros is the swamp. Well, who made George Soros rich? Scott Bessent. Yeah, the guy who's in charge of our treasury is the guy who broke the Bank of England and made George Soros $3 billion in one day. He's great at one thing, destroying currencies. And now that man's in charge of our treasury. All right. Well, that's just one guy. What about Department of Justice? Do you know who runs the Department of Justice now? Trump's personal lawyer. The one who went up to the maximum security prison that Ghislaine Maxwell was in, interviewed her for 6 hours, and after that interview, signed off on her having being transferred, the only sex offender in the country that was transferred to a minimum security prison, given a special vegetarian diet and a fucking puppy. She has a therapy dog in prison. All of this arranged by Trump's attorney, who's now the head of the Department of Justice. What? The head of the FBI said there are no more Epstein files. And then they handed out a little binder full of Epstein files and said, now, we found them. They were there right on the desk the whole time. See, I'm cursed with a didactic memory. I actually see these things in my head. I can see the interviews. I can see Kash Patel saying this. I can remember word for word what he and Dan Bongino said sitting next to each other. I remember everything. You know how women are like, oh, men don't listen. Yeah, it's a good thing, girls. Because if they did, they'd be a real pain in the ass like I am. Because then they'd be able to say, well, that's not what you said 6 months ago. And you go, fuck. What did I don't even remember what I said 6 months ago. Well, that's what you said 6 months ago. Verbatim. It's like, okay, well, that's what I meant. So why are you saying the opposite today? You see, that's the problem, is I'm a pain in the ass. However, I'm your pain in the ass. So that probably didn't come out right. So Kash Patel is a liar and a cheat and a thief and an idiot. And he's probably caught in a honeypot because those big old bulgy bullfrog eyes of his, when the first time they saw that supermodel wannabe, country singer, whatever she calls herself this week, that was it, man. He wasn't, she wasn't out of his class. He was in like 4th grade and she was in college. That's how out of his class she was, at least as far as looks. Well, it means that we backed Iran into a corner and we said, do what we tell you or we will destroy your entire civilization. Now, it looks great in the movies. Looks fun in the movies. When somebody says, do what I'm telling you to do, make the call, or else. And the guy says, sorry, I can't do that. It's like, what? No. Dude, this isn't a movie. He's going to pull the trigger. Like, you got to understand, like, he wouldn't be telling you to do this. He wouldn't be pointing a gun at you if you didn't think you were expendable. You've got to do what he says, or he's got to do this, especially since his men are all standing around watching. Like, you're a dead man if you don't. For real. Sorry, can't do this. Okay, well, guess what? That actually doesn't really happen very often in real life. And the reason that doesn't happen is because when you say that you're going to destroy somebody, you're going to end their life, and they look you directly in the eye and say, okay, go ahead. And you say, no, you don't understand. I'm not bluffing. I'm going to end you. And they say, okay, go ahead. And you say, look, I'm going to give you one last chance. And they say, no, we don't want one more chance. End us. And you say, no, I'm telling you right now, like, you better be careful because you don't know who you're dealing with. And they say, uh-huh. So are you going to draw or are you just going to talk? Because we came here for a gunfight. Well, now if you bluster, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, my favorite movie, Tombstone. Billy Bob Thornton's in there just talking up a storm. And Kurt Russell comes in and says, who's that loudmouth? Walks over to him and says, hey, you're sitting at my card table. And he stands up and says, you got a big mouth for somebody who doesn't go healed. Kurt Russell doesn't have a gun. Doesn't need a gun. Because he looked into Billy Bob Thornton's eyes and saw a coward. Iran has looked into the eyes of the United States of America, and they saw the same thing. It's all bullshit. It's all bluster. We did what we did to Iraq. We did what we did to Venezuela. We did what we did to Afghanistan. Afghanistan? What? 10 million villages? 100 people apiece? No, not even that. more like a couple 100,000 villages with a few people apiece. It's just scattered everywhere. The central government's weak. They've been at war for half a century with each other or with the English or with the Russians or somebody. But they're like mountain goats, man, and they're not giving up. And they kicked our ass. And we left after 20 years and several $trillion. Iraq. Well, we were only there for 15 years. We didn't waste nearly as much time. No, but we did spend more money there. We spent several $1 trillion there. 20 million people, country about this big, didn't get shit accomplished. Who's in charge now? ISIS. So then we decided in our infinite wisdom that we were going to go into Iran. Almost 100 million people. What? 100 million people? Yeah. Wow. Poor Arab country, right? No. Not Arab, not poor. Oh, was it like a homogeneous society? Yeah, pretty much. They're all Persians. Now, some of those Persians are Jews. Some of those Persians are Christians, over 1 million of them. Some of those Persians are Shia Muslim. Hell, there's even some Sunni Muslims in there, but they're Persians, all Persians. Wow. That's not good. No, it's not. So, did we want regime change? No, we wanted what we got in Afghanistan and Iraq, which was just destroy the country and let everybody starve to death and fight in the streets over scraps. Because they're certainly not going to be able to stop Israel from doing anything they want. And do the same thing in Libya, because they told us to. Try to do the same thing in Yemen. Now, what interests me, what makes me laugh, is that the arrogance, the stupidity and arrogance of the Saudi Arabians shocks me. They actually believe that they can placate Israel. How? Well, we're going to run a pipeline from Saudi Arabia instead of through the Persian Gulf or down through the Red Sea. We're going to run one straight over to Israel. And then Saudi Arabia and Israel are going to be partners in this pipeline and straight across the Med to Europe. No way, baby. That ain't going to happen now. Okay, so why would anybody in the Middle East that's Muslim work with Israel? Because they think that by working with Israel, they're making friends with the United States, which they're not. We don't have friends. We have interests. And number two, they think that they can placate the Zionist hardliners, the real conservative and ultra-conservative Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox Jews, which they absolutely cannot under any circumstances. And what amazes me is that somewhere deep down in their overweight idiot stomachs, the royal family of Saudi Arabia must know that it will be their turn next. It's Iran today, but Iran is not part of the Greater Israel Project. The Greater Israel Project takes a big chunk of Saudi Arabia, but it doesn't touch Iran. They just don't want Iran around to try to slow them down. But Saudi Arabia, they're coming for you. Wait, what's that I hear? Somebody's making noise. Turkey? Oh my God, wait a minute. That's one of the biggest Muslim nations in the world. Hell, they're part of NATO. And what are they saying? That this is unacceptable to them? this whole Gaza genocide and everything? Well, let's see how Israel reacts to that. Okay, well, they've reacted now, and guess what they said? Are you sitting down? Netanyahu said that the Turkish government may secretly be working on acquiring nuclear weapons. Clearly, Hollywood has run out of good ideas. They just do remakes of old shit now. Oh, I know. Let's take that cartoon that was so fun and we'll do a live action version of it. Oh, great. That's fantastic. Well, they're doing the same thing now with causes for war. They've run out of good reasons. So they're just going to recycle the same reason. Turkey's looking for a nuclear weapon. Yeah, they just mentioned that. They just talked about that. How Erdogan, not sure they can trust him. Turkey might be looking for a nuclear weapon, and we might need to get them kicked out of NATO. Yep, new weapons of mass destruction. Fell for that trick last time. I'm not falling for it again. I mean, unless you're sure they've got nuclear weapons. Well, we're not sure, but we're pretty sure. How sure? Well, they're 2 weeks away. How 2 weeks away? Unfortunately, very 2 weeks away. Not sort of 2 weeks? No, they're very 2 weeks away. Maybe even sooner. Maybe extremely 2 weeks away. And by the way, yes, they did. And strangely enough, nobody listened to them, even though they are Shia. And Shia are very, very fundamentalist when it comes to the way that they practice their faith. Sunnis seem to be for sale to the highest bidder. They love the United States. They love Israel. They love anybody. Who's got the money? Who's got some money? Now, if I went to the Middle East and I asked of them, not my opinion, not misinformation. Well, nobody's more extreme than the Wahhabis. The Sunni Wahhabis are the most radical of all, and that's just a fact. I've studied Wahhabism. So if I went to Wahhabism was born in Saudi Arabia. It's a Sunni sub faith that says that, see, in the Quran it says very clearly, you can't kill innocent people. You are not allowed to kill civilians. If they are unarmed, men, women, children, doesn't matter. If they are not trying to do you harm, as a Muslim warrior, you cannot hurt them either. Nor can you hurt the green leaf on a living tree. That's actually what it says. So, based on that, if I walk out on the battlefield with a sword and I'm facing a bunch of Sunnis with swords, and I say, you know what? I'm throwing down my sword. Fuck it. I don't want to fight you guys. Hell, I like baklava. And they go, baklava? And I say, yes. And I can't go 3 days without pistachios. What the hell are we fighting about? And they all laugh and go, yeah. All right. Come on, let's go. I walk with them into their tent, and guess what? I get to sleep in the owner of the tent's bed because he has to treat me as an honored guest. That's what it says in the Quran. You must treat your former enemy as though they were an honored guest in your home. That's why Saladin became so famous. Because when he conquered Jerusalem, he didn't kill everybody in Jerusalem. Oh, yeah, he definitely killed the Knights Templar because, I think King whatever, the Lionhearted, went a little nuts and killed some of his captives first. And that's what set Saladin off. And so he just killed all the Knights Templar, just killed them all. Everybody he rounded up, he killed them, executed them immediately. And then turned to the rest of the normal army and said, okay, I win. 2 choices. Stay here as my guests for the rest of your lives. Stay here. I don't mind. But can't preach. Can't try to convert my people. But as long as you want to stay in Jerusalem, you're welcome here. Or if you decide to go home, I will give you 20 pieces of silver and a stallion. An Arabian stallion. That's like handing somebody that's like coming to a kid who just got his commercial driver's license and saying, hey, would you like a free brand new tractor trailer rig? Best one in the world? Free? Yeah, it's paid for. So I could go into trucking with 0 debt? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you just made me a rich man. Yeah, I know. That's what it was like to give somebody an Arabian stallion, because then they could go back to Europe and they could use that stallion for the stud fees, or they could just get other horses, mix them, match them, and the next thing you know, boom, you got thoroughbreds, you got quarter horses, you got everything. So my point is that Saladin was very much a gentleman. When he won that battle, he understood that the best way to really break a warrior is by kindness. That's the only way to break some warriors, is through kindness. Look, technically we won. Now it doesn't mean that the warrior that they beat are not as good. Maybe it was 30-1 odds, and at some point, I don't care if you're a Delta guy or a SEAL or whatever. Look, if it's 50, 60, 80-1, at some point you just go, okay, look, we're not walking out of here. And you just, decide to take your chances. But the reality is, when they did that and he said, look, let's play nice. It's like, wow, why were we fighting this guy? I mean, he's a good dude. He's an honorable man. Now, when those guys get home and you give them the pep talk and you go, okay, this time we're going to go back and we're going to fuck these guys up. They're going to go, no, I really couldn't do that. Like, after the way he treated me, he could have killed me. He could have thrown me in prison. He could have held me for ransom. He gave me enough money to get home and made sure that when I did get home, I wouldn't be poor. I don't want to fight that guy anymore. Like, I consider him a friend. Oof. Man. So my point is, if we don't end this debacle that's going on in the Middle East, one way or the other, whether they handle it like Saladin or whether we decide to handle it like Richard the Lionhearted and try to decapitate them all, which will not go well for us. Have any of you seen the pictures from the water level of the Strait of Hormuz and the mountains that shoot straight out of the ocean, straight up thousands of feet, these monstrous mountains? Because that is the coastline of Iran. That is what you hit the beach, so to speak. Unless, of course, you just go on to the few places where there are actual beaches, which would be what most people would call a kill box, because they know that you can't go here and you can't go here, so you're going to go here. So just sort of point everything here. Like, if you're programming in the short range missiles and the drone coordinates and everything so that you can have a multi-layered drone attack to take out their missile defenses before the missiles actually come in, this is where it's all going to go. So just pre-program that shit. That way, when it's time to go, it's like, all right, I hit the go button. Let's go grab some coffee. This shit's on autopilot. I don't want my Marines in that, man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the problem is the only way to have a forward operating base. I mean, what the fuck does that even mean? If you got a fob on the other side of a mountain range, like you're on the beach, if you go 5 kilometers inland, that means that you've literally made a 3,000 foot up and down journey. So now you're on the other side of a mountain range. So your comms suck, right? It's like you're not gonna fucking hide because the Chinese are giving them fresh satellite footage every day from commercial satellites. They're not even military satellites. It's not like they're up there with their version of a keyhole 11 and they're reading the license plate off of a motorcycle or something. It doesn't need to be that good. I just saw yesterday, I saw a THAAD missile defense system set up in Saudi Arabia. Yep. Saw the whole thing from a Chinese commercial satellite picture. And guess what was marked all over it? Which one of the THAAD systems it was, where the different pods were, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. And then right there in the middle, there was the control system, the electronic control system. Well, let me ask you this. Let's just say that you had, 100 drones, and you wanted to fly them in, terrain-seeking radar, and you wanted to get to the point where nobody could pick them up until they were seconds away, 15, 20 seconds away. And at that point, you can't use the THAAD system on them because that's designed to be pointed up, not straight out. Where would you aim them all? Would you try to hit all the missiles? Because you could hit the missiles. Or would you concentrate all of them initially on the command and control center? Because once you take out the command and control center, then what? Well, those THAAD missiles, those are THAAD paperweights. U.S. turned down Ukrainian help. Well, now, wouldn't that be embarrassing as fuck? The guys who are getting their asses handed to them by the Russians have to turn around and help us. God. Like, who thought this war through, man? Think about that. Well, it's a good thing those Somalis came through for us and helped pull our fat out of the fire. Goddamn, we almost got our asses whooped there by the Iranians, And then we got that coalition of the unwilling that came along from the middle of Africa and pulled us out. The only thing that could be more possibly embarrassing than that would be if UN troops showed up to help us. Have you seen UN troops? Have you seen these guys stand there with their helmets cocked to the side and they're not even strapped? They're standing there like, last week I was chasing chickens through the forest trying to get something to eat. Now I'm a soldier, I guess. 10K for a Shahed drone. That is awesome. Well, yeah, obviously we wanted to defend our bio labs, but the question you've got to ask yourself is, why would anybody? Why? Very greatly in quality for sure. Yeah, it's from my personal experience, shitty to worse. You started shitty and you go worse. Like of all those, the worst I've seen so far was probably in southern Sudan. When AFR, when they came in and the Chinese troops just basically, just hauled ass. They were just like, and they came running to, was it the British compound or the American compound? I forget, but Well, they just came running in and said, they're shooting at us. What do we do? It's like, shoot back. I mean, that's what I would do if I were in a war zone and somebody started shooting at me. I would, what do they call that? Return to sender. That's us. That's all. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, their rules of engagement do call for, basically their point is, look, if they shoot you, that's bad. If they kill you, that's even worse. And at that point, you have every reason to shoot back at them. Okay. You said before we get killed. No. We don't want to offend anybody. Remember, there's local politics involved. It's like, oh my God. Okay. Well, we don't want to offend anybody's sensitivities. That's a fact. So, well, crazy times. But here's what I'll tell you: buy gold if you have lots of money. Buy some gold. Is it going to go up a little bit? And it's stable as hell. If you have a decent amount of money, and when I say decent amount, between a few thousand and a few 100,000, put it all in silver. Call me. I will get you silver at an incredible price. When I say incredible price, I'm not screwing around. You can literally go on and look at the same time I'm looking at APMEX, JM Bullion, whoever. We'll look at their prices, and I will kick the crap out of their prices. I'm a wholesaler for all these big guys. And I just don't need to ski behind 2 yachts at once. That's it. I literally don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on advertising. I don't spend any money on advertising. In 6 years, I've spent $500. That's it. I don't spend money on advertising. So that means you don't spend money on advertising. So call me, buy some silver. But on top of that, buy some beans, buy some lentils. Look, does it sound stupid right now? Yeah, it sounds kind of dumb. Why should I be worried about it? Like, modern civilization is not going to collapse. I hope not to. But based on how bad the food situation is going to get, in this country, we probably won't have food shortages. But why would you even take that chance when for less than $100, you can go buy a bunch of rice and a bunch of beans, stick them in your pantry? Better safe than sorry, man, when it comes to shit like that. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow as well. Thanks for hanging with me on here on the YouTubes.